Hi there, welcome to the Noah Presgrove case. Once again, me sharing my thoughts, analysis on the matter, specifically to do with the attire of Noah Presgrove and why it ended up the way it did and maybe how it changed after that. You'd be familiar by now that I did do a previous very deep video giving my deep thoughts into what happened to Noah and why did he end up at the highway and the possible cause of death. But what about the clothing itself? Clothing is important, even if it's quite limited. It can tell a story as it is a piece of evidence. If it's on the body, on the person when they were alive and possibly leading up to the death of them, who knows what could be on that clothing? Will it be traces of blood, traces of touch-based DNA, fingerprints, whatever? You look back to the Dylan Rounds case, very, very important. Maybe it could apply here with Noah Presgrove too. So I want to give my thoughts today. I want to look at the shorts specifically, regardless of what colour it may be or why it was then and then how it changed after. And possibly to talk about the shoes too, because I saw a theory or an idea by some, just a couple, recently on the comment section of one of my videos highlighting could someone like Jack or someone else have put those mismatched shoes onto Noah? What, put them on his body when he's dead? But why would that be the case? I'll try and make sense of that later, but make sure to stick around, don't go anywhere. If you want to, I don't know, sit back and relax and just listen in, you can, but for those that are watching this live premiere, feel free to use the live chat box on the right hand side of the screen. Share your thoughts, opinions, reactions, questions, whatever it may be, and we'll go from there. And if you do want to elaborate on any points, you got any questions, and this can apply to anyone watching at any point in time, leave your thoughts down below under this video. It helps with spreading awareness, it helps with future ideas of videos, and it can help others when learning about the case. It makes a big difference. Before we do go any further, just want to also highlight a few additional points which are very important. Big shout out, credit to the individuals last night for their support on the channel. I can't remember everybody's names, but there was, I think it was like Badger, it was Cleo, was it Tuesday, was it, I forgot, Angela, I can't remember the names, Michaela or something, but credit to all those people. I acknowledged them last night, but once again, just re-highlight it. Very positive to see the support on this channel, especially when it just appears out of nowhere on the screen with the bright colours and the contrast to it. It's nice visually as well. If anyone wants to support this channel in alternative ways, as example down below in the pinned comment, you'll find some additional links there if you want to. But if you simply just want to catch up on recent videos of mine, well, top right corner of the screen where the eye symbol is, you hover on that, click, you'll find a drop down box with the full playlist of all the videos that I've done on this case. You can catch up there, and the video that I did last night. So all under control. And it's worth catching last night's video because it's to do with a TV crew getting involved. For a few more details, make sure to check it out. And as well, in that video, the comment section, there's actually an updated comment by somebody explaining who it is or the network. So feel free to check that when you've got time. But right now, just need to lock in my time to share my thoughts because I don't always do it. I cover that many perspectives, there's not enough time for me. So I guess I'll use common sense, but maybe I'll do some comparisons as well throughout this video. So feel free to listen in. I guess it's time to begin. So, whilst Noah would have been dressed to what extent at the party, how did it differ to how he was found on the highway? You could argue and say it didn't really differ that much. He was clothed up to a certain point at least. But if you wanted to take in consideration from what Tyler Hardy has stated, what he saw individually, and I guess Tyler as well, but he's not really spoken that much at all. Tyler Hardy going on about naked body, shorts, either by the side or in the middle of the road. Caden Pressey earlier on saw Noah clothed in terms of the shorts area. So a dead body wearing shorts and then later not. Obviously someone or some people would have been would have had to have been responsible as the middleman for removing the shorts, because a dead person doesn't take them off themselves, do they? So there is that. So if you look at the full timeline, or without the actual times, it sounds a bit silly that, but you look at the full length of how the events played out. Clothed to an extent, then died, clothed to an extent, virtually somewhat similar. And then after death, big changes in terms of posture, positioning of the body too. Heard about the legs and arms being sprawled out when Caden saw Noah's body for the first time. The body was sprawled out when wearing the shorts black. But in terms of after that, when the body suddenly became naked and the shorts were by the side or in the middle of the road, and when the likes of the first police guy, Jimmy Williams, came on down, he said that the legs were straight, the arms weren't tucked in. Does that mean they were spread out then? I don't know. But the fact that the legs went from sprawled out to closed on a dead body would imply someone must have touched the legs open and close. Now, if they were open to begin with, then closed after, why would you do that? Well, normally when you're taking clothes off, and I guess even when you're putting them on, your body parts change in position to be able to allow you to fit into whatever you're putting on or taking off. The wider your legs are spread, depending on how far you can spread them, it's going to be harder to take whatever off, right? You want to take them off slowly. You want to take them off and fling them off fast. You're probably going to keep your legs closed. I mean, even with a mannequin, well, actually, I don't know if mannequins' legs can spread at all. Probably not, because they're quite stiff mannequins, aren't they? But with a dead body, as bad as it sounds, you start manipulating the body, putting it in different positions, movement. Would that be considered desecration? Desecrating a body of some sort? You're not exactly damaging it, but abusing or inappropriately touching? I don't know. Does it apply here, though? You can let me know your thoughts down below, but I can understand. You want to take clothing off yourself, off someone. In any situation, good or bad, you're probably going to close the legs to then pull the shorts off. It's the easiest things to do. It's very practical. I guess an interesting thing is, whatever was responsible for taking the shorts off and adjusting the leg positioning, I'm surprised that they didn't reposition the body in the same position as it was to begin with, just to make it seem like it's not been altered with, to blend it in, like nothing to see here, okay, the shorts are off now, but the body's in the same exact position. The only other factor I wanted to add in, and we are jumping into the deep end, but it's just the first thing that comes to my mind, okay? So just, I'll take my time. When it comes to the shorts, the body itself, legs being adjusted, spread, then closed, shorts taken off, no DNA, no touch-based DNA on the body, no fingerprints of anyone handling Noah, touching Noah even after death. Well, that could imply that likely because whatever was responsible, they ended up wearing gloves. When you wear gloves, you don't leave traces. With the exception of if you had a glove, poor quality, it tore, teared, and then your fingerprints ended up making contact. But if you're wearing decent gloves, not going to be a problem. Look at the Idaho 4 case. Those 3 unknown males at the party, was it a party house or was it just a house? I can't remember now, to be honest, it's some time ago. At the student house, Kings Road, Moscow, Idaho, I think. And some gloves were found, or a glove was found outside of the window. What's that doing there? Probably it was worn by someone at least when entering and exiting from maybe the window, because that's where the glove was found nearby, and it was used to conceal themselves, their identity, and make sure there's no traces of them left behind. So you think that could possibly apply to the Noah Presgrove case? Well, if in the Idaho 4 case, the glove or gloves belong to those 3 unknown males, in which, at least in the past, what I was aware of, because I can't remember, well, I've not seen any updates since, I've not looked for updates, but at the time, unknown males, never followed up, never resolved. If that still applies now, maybe those gloves did play a crucial part within it all, maybe. But then again, it comes to the LE and how they handle stuff, and there were some claims made that they tampered or contaminated evidence, which would have harmed the case if that was true. With the Noah Presgrove case, was any evidence tampered with by the LE? Does anyone know? Because the short situation appears to be tampered with. 1 minute on the body, then after not. Someone must have taken them off. That's tampering with evidence. But then the situation of the shorts being in the middle of the road, and supposedly Jack, I think Jack said it directly himself, if I'm correct in saying from that People article what we read. He ended up collecting those shorts, which were in the middle of the road, and took them back to his vehicle and put them in the back, just to make sure that they didn't blow away or they weren't damaged by any other passing vehicles. I can understand that, trying to preserve evidence. But at the same time in doing that, thinking you're doing good, it's a double-edged sword. Because whilst you're doing good, you're actually harming evidence by tampering with it. It's not in its natural position. You can't calculate or work out or do the true natural analysis of how did the shorts end here when the body's over there? Why the distance? Same with the blood. Why is blood there, the body's there, but there's no splatter in between? How have you got shorts here, body there, blood there? What? Was it all neatly laid out, or did it just happen all in one go? Body dumped, placed on the side, the shorts flew off in the air, blood magically appeared in one spot. It seems like a magic trick. I don't think so. The blood bit is odd, and I'm not talking about the lack of blood, but the patch of blood where there's no splatters in between. That's weird. But in terms of the shorts, on a dead body, then later not, and Jack supposedly picking them off from the road to preserve them, damaging the natural state that they were in, harming the case to an extent. What would have happened though if Jack left them as they were? That double-edged sword of you leave it natural, so it helps the case when investigating, but in between, whilst waiting for police, vehicles could accidentally drive over the shorts. But what I would say is, if they were in the middle of the road, when Tyler and Tyler Hardy were driving on down, I guess they didn't run over it, so it could have been possible to avoid damaging the shorts and still maintaining them in their natural state and place. Does that take in consideration? Yeah. Anyway, just thought I'd throw that out there. I might conclude or link back to that later on in this video, but they were just my sudden thoughts. Let's take it back to the beginning with the clothing situation, right? Said how at the start Noah clothed to an extent, then at the end unclothed, but up to the death clothed from the looks of it. How many items changed along the way, and how significant is it? You could argue and say Friday, well, we've not really heard anything about that. Saturday, when Noah finally got down to the party for the first time on Saturday. From the footage, what we've seen, and how it's been confirmed by people within the community, that Noah supposedly was wearing the beige khaki-coloured shorts on Saturday. Saturday night being, for example, when Noah got slapped by Shady or Shandy, like that. And as well, some other footage of, I think, Noah dancing or with some of the girls. No, when he was being written on, when they wrote on his back and just above his bottom area. That was like Saturday because of those coloured shorts specifically. Then after Saturday, leaving, possibly because of that argument with Jack, getting back to his place of living Sunday morning, having a wash and sleeping, but still having enough time to then suddenly go back out with the likes of Caden, Jack, Brylan, Isaac, Avery, Carter, Jack, Logan, and whoever else to get breakfast or lunch in the morning time at Warwick gas station. A lot going on, it's quite busy. Was there enough time for Noah to actually sleep when then going back out after? The timestamp that I've not heard of since was 5 PM being called or being taken to the party. I've never heard that mentioned ever since. I remember Dusty talking about it, but it was never reinforced, or when I asked questions about it with what we heard from what Caden said, it wasn't followed up, so it's faded away. But what coloured shorts was Noah wearing then Sunday when he went back out with the people to work a gas station? Black shorts, supposedly. Well, at least from what we've seen with the party footage Sunday night going into Monday morning, possibly, wearing black shorts. I believe there's only 2 different coloured shorts what we saw from the party footage. There might be other party footage out there which shows the white shorts, as was it Brooke Bounce Carter claimed or someone claimed recently, but we've not seen it. It's not public. So therefore it's not helpful and we can't believe in it just yet. A simple snap of Noah wearing white shorts, but oh no, we can't reveal that at this moment in time. Well, there must be very significant evidence then if you can't show some bloody shorts, even though you look at the other party footage of Noah wearing his shorts, Noah exposing his chest and nipples. I'm surprised I didn't say, sorry, we can't show that because we need to censor it, we need to blur it out, we need some high digital software to cover it because it's very sensitive information, by the way. Nope, it was all on display, wasn't it? No big deal there, even with whipped cream on. So I'm sure a pair of white shorts aren't that big of a deal. They can be important though later on, such as at the scene. Maybe you can't show that, understandable. But if you talk about white shorts, a Snapchat of it, of him alive at the party or outside of the building, it should be publicly viewable. And how many people have actually seen that snap? That's the thing. This is where it becomes a little bit divided within these communities out there on Facebook, where majority haven't seen it, but they've heard it, right? Being talked about. And then a couple of people, random individuals, say, yeah, I've seen it. What is it with these random individuals, these small subcell groups of people in these communities and groups, normal people supposedly, being able to access this photo or that video? Is it because they've got contacts within the background, because they're connected to these friends or family members? What the hell's going on? Like a game of hide and seek, every now and then so it will pop up and you better get hold of it. And the interesting thing is, out of all the people that have said, yeah, I've seen this or I've seen that, and it's only in a very small minority, not a single one has decided to think, you know what, I'll get a screenshot of it, right? Just to back it up, just in case. There might be some stuff that can't be shown publicly, obviously, but then other things possibly could be shown publicly, but no one thinks of taking screenshots at a time of when it could be leaked or when it could be revealed temporarily and then removed afterwards. How does it get shown in the first place, these like snaps, these little bits of video footage? Is it publicly released and then retracted afterwards because, oh, it's too important? Well, if it's that important, you should have thought about posting it in the first place and not doing it, right? So, a bit reckless there, because how else would people get access to it? In the background, on other apps, on Yahoo, Drive, text message, social media, but elsewhere besides Facebook, privately. That's all I could think of, really. Even like with email, that's limited in terms of file sizes of what you can send over, especially videos. Instagram, the same thing too. So there are limitations to that. I've got to take that into consideration. But the short situation, the clothing, right? Sunday, wearing the black shorts. Then at what point did they suddenly change from what Jack's been claiming into white shorts, borrowing Jack's? Why do you need to borrow someone else's shorts? Maybe because you don't have any more pairs of shorts left. Now, maybe how it was worded in the past, that, oh yeah, Noah had a couple of pairs of shorts there on both days or one of the days. Then from what Jack's been saying, nope, Noah was wearing black shorts. Ended up getting into that ATV side-by-side incident, getting all dirty, having a wash, and then changing into the white shorts. I'm guessing in that order, it would make sense at least. How significant are the white shorts compared to the black shorts? Both are as important as one another because both play a role or a part within the timeline, specifically the highway. Both the black and white shorts appear on Noah's body in the same location at different times, post-death. That's what is really odd, right? From Caden Pressey's point of view at 5:20 in the morning, September 4th, Monday 2023 onwards, on the highway, 5:20 saw Noah clothed, at least the lower body part, with the black shorts on, as in from the party, would make sense. You're at the party wearing black shorts, something bad or unfortunate happens, and now you've ended up dead, still wearing the same clothes. That's to be expected. If the clothing was a bit damaged, depending on the cause, would be expected. Things like that, it would make sense. But in terms of Jack, what he said, onwards, at what time exactly? Guess it depends, because Caden said Jack was there anyway before 5. Well, not Caden said, but from what we've heard of, Jack was already there at the scene before 5:15 in order to get down to the house at 5:15 to let people know what's happened, and then to head back, and then at some point to go, and then come back again, Jack, at 6 in the morning, when Tyler said, that's the first time I saw Jack or so. Interesting. So if you want to apply it to 6 in the morning onwards, when Jack made his first arrival, as it's claimed, or you want to refer to much earlier on, before 6, some point the white shorts making an appearance on site. On Noah's body? No. Black shorts seen by Caden on Noah's body, white shorts seen after by others, but not on the body, but nearby. It's weird. Why would it happen in the first place, any of that? Well, I will explain it shortly. Regardless of colour, the act of things being taken off, that's a theme, what we're going to talk about today. But is there any other miscellaneous items which have a higher degree of importance over the shorts? Really, it would be the hat. I mean, each bit of clothing is important because it tells a story within the case, with the DNA, the evidence upon it, if there is any. Each one can tell a story as to how it was handled, why it looks the way it does, or why it's got traces on it, and where does it trace back to, and who, and when, and where. It can tell quite a lot. You think of a photo, a picture can tell many stories and reveal many words and impressions. If you've got multiple pieces of artifacts, is that what you call that? Or more so clothing, each bit of clothing could reveal what happened to Noah. But you've got to take into consideration how much clothing was on Noah all the way through the party, at least from the footage, what we've seen. Well, Noah had a cap, a hat, branded or not, I'm not sure what make, but we saw him wearing his hat quite often in the party footage from Saturday, Sunday, and maybe even Monday, right? But was it on Noah's dead body? No. Was it anywhere to be found? No. Is it missing? Yes. That's quite important, that, because is there a possibility that the hat has been disposed of like the golf clubs? I wonder. Or did the hat fall off somewhere at the party, got lost, or someone else stole it or thought it was theirs and took it home with them, never to be seen again? Is that a possibility? Take into consideration, if Noah was somehow able to put on mismatched shoes, which just so happen to be the same size, maybe how you feel within them wouldn't be that much of a difference, but how they look in appearance is a big contrast. But it depends what state of mind Noah was in at the time. Drunk, quite there with it, in a rush, didn't care, desperate to go or to get away, who knows? What I'm getting at, if Noah was somehow able to put on mismatched shoes, that's going to stand out more than if another party goer came across Noah's hat somewhere at the party and thought, oh, that's my hat, and accidentally took it. It all comes down to the hats. How many people at the party? 30 to 40 people wearing hats. How many of them were wearing one? And how many of them had hats that were very similar, if not purely identical to Noah's? It's like with the Dylan Brown's case. Many farmers, people out there, locals, wearing John Deere hats. You can find one out there. You could assume it's Dylan Brown's. It's a piece of evidence. No, didn't really lead to anything. Complete wasted time by some people in the background searching. Okay? But get your hopes up. You think it must be Dylan's because it looks the same, it's got the same brand, but if it's a popular hat and a range of people have it, it could be someone else's. So with the Noah Presgrove case and the party specifically, how many people had a similar, if not identical hat to what Noah was wearing at the time? I think Jack Newton, well, not I think, but Jack Newton did have a hat, and we did see it in some of the footage. It just so happened that Jack lost his hat as well. Isn't it interesting how Noah loses his hat, Jack loses his hat as well? Is there any correlation or link there, or just a coincidence? And how do both go missing? Are they both together somewhere? Were they taken away by different people? But to refer back, if Noah is able to put on mismatched shoes, then it's very possible that someone could have taken Noah's hat accidentally. If it was an accident of putting on mismatched shoes, or he wasn't quite thinking, taking it into mind, it's more possible for a person to take someone else's hat by accident. But what about Jack's hat though? Well, Jack was saying someone messed with his. Messed with his, couldn't find it, it's still a missing hat. Was it taken, stolen by someone? I wonder. Then we bring it all the way back to modern time in 2024, the last few weeks or whenever it was, with Kathy Bingham, private investigator, reaching out, or the other way around, with the eyewitness at the casino known as Kathy, I think Kathy Carter or so, who works there as a cleaner inside of the male bathroom of the casino, south of Terrell. Not Terrell, just in case anyone gets triggered by that pronunciation. And in the bathroom, not that there were cameras inside, but more so on the outside because of privacy and everything, but the eyewitness was inside and saw 3 guys identified, or at least one confirmed ID'd, to be from the party of 2023, right? Now, yes, we heard about this news recently in 2024, but as to when the event occurred, who knows? It was never explained, never given. Even the loud mouth person, Kathy Carter, who was whinging and whining in the chat, right, with their tone and attitude, they didn't give enough context. They said, "I'm a female," in capital letters. I'm a female! I'm a winner! Sorry, wrong video there. But okay, you want to shout that out to the rafters and rooftops so everyone hears about it, but what about the date? What about the time? What about the year? That's most important. Wasn't provided. It was very simple to do, but failed to be met. Unfortunate. But nevertheless, that event, one, I ID'd to be from the party at some point at the casino, putting a hat on a bin. Whoa. How it was worded by Kathy, it seemed as if it was being disposed in a bin, but Kathy says, the eyewitness, it was placed on top of a bin. And if it's on top of a bin, the bin's going to have a lid or a cover on top with the sides exposed where you can shove things in. So it was placed on top of a bin. What happened then? Unknown. Whose hat was it? Unknown. Who are those 3 guys? Who are they? Identity's not publicly been revealed, so that's unfortunate. Could one of the guys been Jack? And if it was, that hat placed on the bin, was it Jack's hat? Well, if it's 2024 and it was Jack's hat, probably not going to be as relevant. He could have got a new hat since, just like how 5:53 in the morning on Monday, September 4th, when Jack ended up saying to his father Caleb, in terms of the fishing trip, "Can you get me another hat because of mine's been messed around with?" Well, in 2024, nearly a year passing on or so, by now, Jack would have had a new hat. He wouldn't have gone from 2023 to now without that hat thinking, "Where's my little hat gone? I've not found it. I won't get any new ones until I find my original." That's not going to happen. You're going to move on. You're going to get a new hat. So that footage implies that Jack's involved. His hat's there as well, but it's in 2024. I wouldn't say it's relevant to the party situation. And some of those individuals in the background and neighbours and the eyewitness got very triggered by saying, "Why are you discrediting it? How could you do that, Warlight Raff?" I'm not discrediting, I'm being realistic. Maybe that's something you need to take up, okay? The appointment door is open, Dr. Raff is here to embed it in people's minds, if necessary, in a natural way. Anyway, that aside, So return back to the hat situation. If it was in 2023, this eyewitness report of it all going down, there might be a smaller chance. It could be more relevant to the party. And if Jack's involved, it could be interesting. But isn't it interesting how out of all the party goers, it was Jack, it was Noah. Best friends, both lost their hats. Ended up somewhere, never to be found. Not at least publicly announced, so assumed to be missing still. What about the other partygoers? How many of the other partygoers lost items or clothing along the way, I wonder? I mean, when it came to a viewer on my channel recently, they said in the past that they lost their pants or something. So when they were walking back home, they had to have a long coat to cover their body. Okay. Well, if it can happen to a person with an example story like that, then a situation with the Noah Presgrove case, considering how many people were at the party, there are chances you could misplace things or lose them, or other people prank you and get rid of them or damage them or take them away, or it's accidental. The more people present, the more items that will be present as well, such as clothing. You know, you're not going to get 30 to 40 people all turning up with no clothes on, are you? Right? We're all going to be wearing clothing to some extent, at least, appropriate attire or not. The more clothing, and if it's taken off or placed aside, it could get jumbled, mixed up with things. It depends how long Noah was wearing his hat for. At least for the necklace, not exactly clothing, but more of an accessory. May not be clothing, but an accessory just as important as clothing because it's evidence and it was present at the scene of the highway. So the short situation, very important. As for how it could have all ended up the way it did, I'll get to that shortly. As for the hat situation, arguably more important, considering when it comes to Noah, he was wearing it at the party. Was he wearing it at the time of when he died? We don't know. The hat could have fell off at the party or outside of the property, or it could have been taken off or stolen. And then Noah could have ended up walking away or got ambushed somehow and somehow died. Right? I'm just being careful with wording. So by the time he was taken to the highway, he was already missing his hat. The other way could be, similar to the short situation, Noah could have been wearing his hat, dumped at the highway, and immediately the hat taken off, or later with the shorts. But Caden didn't mention anything about whether Noah was wearing a hat or not. At least to my memory, no hat mention was mentioned. So you'd think that probably Caden didn't see the hat. So it was already off Noah's body then. So is that implying that Noah's body was dumped on the highway, then someone decided to take the hat off there and then think, you know what, let's give it some time and we'll return back to the highway and take the shorts off at a later point. It's like finishing touches. You feel like you've done something well or you've covered something up in your mindset at the time, but then maybe after as time passes by, you start thinking or doubting or questioning, you know what, did I do this correctly? Was there any clothing that was still on Noah's body that probably shouldn't be because it could somehow trace back? Maybe we should probably go down there and remove it or get someone else to do it. That taken into consideration, right? But there's a range of different clothing, isn't there? So the hat situation either could have been lost or fallen off at the party when moving about, or it could have been lost, knocked off if Noah was being attacked or ambushed or even knocked down. Even though it's not a hit and run and it's been ruled out, if it was a hit and run and Noah was wearing a hat, likely the hat would have fallen off, right? You think of the wind, when it blows, it can blow your hats off. Unless you got it fastened on or there's like a strap that goes underneath your chin or something, or maybe over the ears, with those exceptions, it probably would hold on, but it's just a baseball cap. Baseball caps can easily get knocked off by wind, blowing in a direction, the force of it. Someone simply just knocking it, flicking it off, shaking your head, it can fall off. So yeah, the concept of a missing hat can spark interest. Ooh, could it have been disposed of, like the golf clubs, because it could hold evidence on it? Will we ever find it? But because someone like Jack as well was missing his hat, how it was lost could have been the same way with Noah, whether you see that as being disposed of because of evidence being worn at the time of the death and the killing by each individual, in that scenario, or they were lost at different points through different ways more naturally. You've got to take into mind a hat, which Noah wore at the time, up to a point, is important, like with the shorts and other clothing, and you could argue it's more important because it's missing. So it holds a level of mystery and intrigue behind it. It's the unknown and uncertainty. But there is still that small chance that maybe there's not much to it and it's not that special. Yes, it's missing, but if it was somehow found, if it was lost at the party, it fell off at some point before the death, it's not as important as the shorts, is it? Because the hat may not tie in line with the time of the death and beyond if it was lost before. But because of that mystery, that unknown, that uncertainty, all theories at this moment in time are open and welcome. That's what gives it the importance behind it, the presence, the atmosphere about it. It's like with the wallet with Dylan Rounds. Where is it? Where was it? Could it have been simply chucked away? Is it tying in with the actual death, the situation? What evidence could it hold? Never really heard about that, but there was a level of mystery and intrigue behind it. And because it remained unsolved for quite some time, and maybe it still applies now, I'm not too sure, it gave it a level of importance, even though the likes of the phone of Dylan, even more important with what it had on it from that forensic dive, and the phone pings as well. It was found at the pond fairly early on. I think it was June 18th or June 19th, 2022, right? So an item like that, more important, holds more evidence on it, but found earlier. And then you got the wallet, which could overshadow certain other items of importance just because the wallet is unknown, uncertain. So with the Noah Presgrove case, the hat, unknown as to where it is, could it have been disposed of because of evidence? Could it have just simply been lost? Depends which way it goes, right? So there's a level of importance there, but the hat could have its own category because we're not for definite if Noah was wearing the hat at the time of when he was killed and beyond. At least for the short situation, we can have a little bit more of an understanding with that, mainly because of Caden Pressey and what he saw. If Caden Pressey never talked, and it was just the fact that Noah's shorts were found by the side of him or in the middle of the road, and then Jack added on that they were white, and that's all we knew, they'd be lacking a lot of context. Jigsaw puzzle pieces missing, but we've been able to fill that in because of Caden and what he's had to say. The best scenario would be, and I don't know if it will ever happen, if someone like Isaac or Brylan, maybe Mikey, did an interview if it was possible. Individually, no biasness, no influencer or researcher effects, all natural, and they all individually said the same thing, which in a way backed up what Caden was originally stating. That would be pretty good, wouldn't it? And reinforce a lot more. And with the short situation, on Noah's body from start till death, and then beyond that, adjusted from how it's been worded and how we've compared and contrasted with time. The changes of coloured shorts and the positioning of them and even the body ties in line with possible tampering of evidence, disposing of evidence. Was it disposed of? I don't think the shorts were disposed of because they were handed back eventually, but they were cleaned or washed, which is obviously very ideal for some out there that could be somehow caught up within it. Convenient, that was the word I was trying to think of. If I'm correct in saying that the black shorts were returned back to Dalen Presgrove or one of the family members, correct me if I'm wrong down below. But, you know, the other talks, what about a shirt situation? That never really gets acknowledged. Well, maybe it did earlier on in the case with the whole talk of a shirt being cut up and shared into different pieces with all the party goers as like a memento or something. Very odd and weird, especially to be doing it so early on. That's the first thing you think of. Yeah, let's destroy some evidence. Let's cut up some clothing. That's really responsible. Well done. That should be done after. You shouldn't be thinking of after right now. That should come later. What you should be thinking right now is normal emotions, grief or shock, or trying to figure out what's happened, not be honouring Noah immediately just like that. It's a bit too soon. There's a procedure. Obviously, people do react differently and do things differently, but it just seems a bit weird cutting up a shirt. How truthful is that? I don't know. I've not seen evidence, only it being talked about online. That's why I don't go into it that much now. We just focus on more of the consistent stories which have been brought up time and time again and haven't changed that much. That can be a form of consistency. The other stories, what we've heard along the way, the tooth situation, picking it up or taking out the pocket by Caleb, that's been roughly talked about and it's not been backed up with evidence and it's not been mentioned since or strong enough for that consistency. So I put that aside just for now. So I'm not ignoring it completely, but I'm not focusing in on it because I don't feel there's consistency with it, right? But the short thing, there is a level of consistency. Black shorts on Noah's body at least 5:20 in the morning up to 5:30 when Caden was there to witness it. Then after 5:30, supposedly, they were removed, taken off, and replaced with white shorts, supposedly. But in contrast from what Jack has said, without actually saying it that way, that when Caden was there, Noah was supposed to be wearing white shorts, because Jack said that at the party, Sunday, going into Monday, I think it was Monday more so because of the side-by-side, tipping over or rolling over, getting dirtied, wash, change of clothes, borrowing Jack's shorts, which were white. And then from there on then, wearing white shorts all the way through. How could Caden get it wrong? I'm not saying that Caden is wrong, but if you were to look into Jack's perspective of what he knows and what he's stating, why would Caden say black and Jack say white? Jack would say white if he knew that Noah was borrowing his shorts. That would make sense. And if Caden wasn't aware of that, then wouldn't know. When's the last time Caden saw Noah alive, at least on Monday? Well, it was close to 3 in the morning on Monday. That's the last time when Caden saw Noah alive and awake along with Jack. It's a shame. It's a great shame at that time Caden didn't state what coloured shorts Noah was wearing at that point. You would assume and say black probably, because if it's near to 3 in the morning and the side-by-side incident is after Caden goes to sleep up until 5:15 in the morning when woken up by Jack, a couple of hours passing on by, from 3 in the morning to 3:30 when Jack said Noah ended up leaving at 3:30. 30-minute time difference, 30 minutes to get in an ATV side-by-side incident, to have a wash somehow, to change shorts because you got no more pairs yourself, and then to leave after wearing Jack shorts. I'm assuming that Jack had a spare pair, which were the white ones, because if Noah was to borrow Jack shorts and Jack didn't have any himself, then he'd be walking around with nothing. So obviously spare pairs of shorts, but Noah had a short straw in which he had no more left, supposedly. But if you're going to see the difference between white or black shorts at the highway, is it going to show? Daytime, it's going to be very obvious between black and white, but nighttime or early hours of the morning, is it easy to see what's black and what's white? Well, I guess if it's not reflective and it doesn't glow, it could be harder to tell if the shorts are black or white. But in fairness, the fact that there were supposedly vehicles parked up nearby, trucks, whatever, and I'm assuming the lights would have been on in order, if you were blocking the highway or obstructing it slightly, you would have your lights on and probably the hazard warning lights just to alert drivers from a distance to make it safe to slow down. The more lights that are present, you got 2 trucks at a point in time at around 5:20. You got Caden Pressey in his vehicle as well, and supposedly Jack in his vehicle too, based off that timeline, what we've heard of. There is enough light source, probably focused and concentrated roughly within the area, to illuminate it from the darkness. And the more illuminated it is, the clearer it will be to tell the difference between black and white shorts. So whilst there's no street lamps, lamp post down that long highway stretch, there are vehicles parked up nearby, likely with lights on. And with those lights being gone, it probably would glow a bit near to the body, directly on it or just nearby. So it'd be harder to make the mistake of not being able to identify what's black and what's white. So you'd know what the colour is likely. So if Caden says he saw black shorts, that's probably because there were black shorts. But if Jack is saying that there were white shorts, why does it need to be that way around? And if Jack was lying about the white short situation, why would there be a need to lie over a pair of different coloured shorts? Why would you want to convince everyone that, hey, you know, Noah over there, Noah, the one that was killed or died in some way, accident or not, yeah, Noah on the highway, found on the highway and with limited clothing on. By the way, they're my shorts. Why do you need to tell everyone that? And if it was based off a lie, why would you want to convince everyone that those shorts that Noah were wearing were yours? Does that make you more innocent? Does it gain some kind of immunity? It doesn't make sense to lie about a pair of shorts. This is what I mean. I mean, if you were talking about whether the shorts were on Noah's body or not, and you were lying about that, that's more important because it's the act of possibly removing evidence, tampering with it and getting rid of it. And if you're somehow caught within it and you're responsible for it, or you know someone who did it, you probably are going to lie to manipulate the narrative, convince people a certain way that it's all natural and nothing bad happened, because you're protecting yourself, you're protecting others. But when it comes to a pair of shorts, whether they were black or white, does it really matter what colour the shorts were? It's the fact that were the shorts on Noah's body or not? What condition were they in? And in terms of the condition of them, from what we've seen on the report, I believe, the autopsy, they weren't damaged. They weren't like roughened up, there's no scratches and there's no tears or marks on it. Well, when you put in perspective with what Caden Pressey saw, black shorts, the original ones, and then the situation with Jack's, the white borrowed ones supposedly, well, up to a certain point, up to the death, and just after that, wearing black shorts, and then later, after Caden's left, but before the Tyler and Tyler Hardy arrived, some people or a group manipulating the body, taking shorts off to clean or dispose, more so clean, the original black shorts, because it could be considered as evidence important. It could conflict someone, it could incriminate an individual who's caught within the mess. It could have touch-based DNA fingerprints on those specific shorts at the time when the body was disposed of earlier, or the actual possible attack or ambush much before that, earlier. But in the process of doing all that and then replacing with white shorts nearby or chucking them in the middle of the road just to make it look a bit more natural, yeah, no wonder why the shorts, the white ones, wouldn't have been damaged and in better condition, because they weren't really worn and the men had never been worn by Noah. They were just placed there by the side or more so chucked in the middle of the road, and it just so happened that no vehicles decided to drive over them. Could the act of placing white shorts nearby to the body, besides it being a form of getting rid of evidence but keeping or replacing them with other clothing to make it not seem that suspicious, but by dumping it, like how they may have dumped Noah's body, in hopes that even though the shorts may be fresh, clean and undamaged, they were hoping that by chucking it in the middle of the road, that vehicles would drive over it, causing damage to the clothing, maybe a tyre mark, and in hopes of that being able to link to Noah's body being there. To be honest, if they wanted to do a better job, if there was a form of foul play, it would have made more sense using your own vehicle or another vehicle driving over the fresh pair of white shorts, then replacing them for the black ones, disposing of the black ones or cleaning off evidence of them, putting the white shorts actually on the body of Noah to replace where the black ones were so it doesn't look that strange, keeping him in the same position or putting him back into the same position. So then you've got a pair of new shorts with less evidence on which could incriminate people, but more so more evidence to support the hit and run or some kind of road traffic accident, because you know, you got tire marks on the shorts, they're on Noah's body, Noah's dead, oh, tie it all together, boom, there you go, case closed. That didn't happen. But you see what I'm getting at? If there is a form of intent to dispose of the body by someone or some people at the highway to make it seem like the death was caused by something else. Surely you would think the act of clothing would play a role too. Clothing evidence on the person tells a story. Well, by getting some shorts, leaving some skid marks, and not the brown ones, but tyre marks on them, putting them onto Noah's body, it's like, well, it's a hit and run. It's a hit and run. You know, like how people like push it and push it with that agenda, and some are a bit delusional as well. If you had tyre marks and some shorts, you'd be thinking, well, there you go. That's all the proof you need. Done. Now, obviously, people may not be convinced that easily, but that would have been a better strategy for dodgy people to do it that way than to think, you know what, we'll take the black shorts off at a later point because it could have evidence on. We'll clean it, we'll get rid of it, move it away. But we'll replace it for white shorts so it doesn't look entirely odd. But instead of actually putting those white shorts back on Noah's body, instead we're just going to chuck him in the middle of the road. Yeah, because in every hit and run, your shorts end up there and your body ends up over there. If it was down to the hat and the shoes being on the side of the road or in the middle of the road, that would make more sense based off a hit and run. Like how people said, your shoes can get flung off, especially with the force of how you hit. I get that. But, you know, granted, depends how shoes are, whether they're fastened on, laced or Velcro. That does play a factor as well. But if they're not tight, if they're a bit loose, they could fall off, or the slip-ons, or the Crocs, or the slippers. Yeah, they could slip off quite easily. I get that. A hat definitely could fall off and blow off in the wind, or if you hit or move your head or move your body too fast, flung about, they can fall off. Well, the hat wasn't there at the highway, so that's unfortunate, bit of a mystery. The shoes, although mismatched, were still on Noah's body, worn, not taken off, not fallen off. Hit and run ruled out, but shorts found in the middle of the road. So the black shorts might have been on Noah's body up to a certain point, then replaced with the white shorts, even though Jack says the white shorts were always on Noah from, let's say, Monday onwards in the morning time. But nevertheless, whether Noah was wearing the white shorts or not, as Jack claims, why did they end up in the middle of the road during the death of Noah, or at the time of the death of Noah? A dead person's shorts don't just suddenly, you know, come off the body and then end up appearing in the middle of the road. No. And even if you're beaten or attacked, the clothing isn't going to run away from your body at the time. You might run away, but your clothing isn't. It's going to remain on you. The exception of some clothing which can fall off in the process of a beating, like a hat, definitely. Shoes, depending the fitting, can fall off too. If you're being grabbed by the leg, dragged by the foot, shoes can fall off. Supposedly, that's how it was within the Dylan Rounds case. Dylan Rounds at the time was clothed as a normal individual, nothing odd there. But the one piece of clothing that was found, not on Dylan's body, but away from his body and the burial site, behind the dirt mound, about 200 yards away from the Grangeshed property, and you know, same proximity or so distance to the trailer of Brenner's, who's the killer, the one responsible. The boots of Dylan Rounds were found around the dirt mound in Lucin, Utah. But Dylan Rounds' body was found beyond that, so it was west, towards the west gate. Okay, the west side, over that way. And it was near like a hill, or drooping down on a hill on the other side of the property line fence. Body over there, shoes over this way. Why the shoes here and the body's over there? The body's supposedly fully clothed, but the boots specifically are here. But why? Why exactly? It was a mystery for some time. Brenner claimed, oh, well, he found them there inside the shed or nearby and didn't think Dylan was coming back, so he decided to take them himself and put him by his trailer, and then later take him to the dirt mound. And he's never seen Dylan all that time for over so many months. But it came out as a lie with Brenner, because based off the phone pings and the interactions, Dylan was on site at the time on the Saturday, which was the 28th of May 2022, and based off the phone pings and the call made, that Dylan would have been on site in the presence of Brenner, so Brenner would have seen Dylan, so it was a lie, the original story, as we expected. But in terms of the killing of Dylan, shot multiple times in the head or so, obviously not an accident. Fit of rage, possibly. We've seen it with the Maryland shooting in the past. It's happened then, it can happen again. You re-offence over and over again, so what do you expect? It's not that deep in that. Work-related dispute in Maryland. Well, it just so happens that this is like a work-related dispute with Dylan Rounds, wanting to park the grain truck in the grain shed, and Brenner not wanting that, not liking it. Maybe the horse gate being damaged in the process. Brenner gets triggered by that because of the noise, and he's protective over his horse. And as seen in the past, that Brenner decided to lose his mind when someone decided not to lock the gates of the grain shed property and the horse got out. So you're having a repeat of that. You can understand why Brenner would snap again, and based off his reoffending behaviour and work-related disputes, it all ties in line, doesn't it? But obviously there's some in the community that are a bit obsessed about the case and don't quite understand it till this day. But it is where it is. Nevertheless, the death of Dylan, and then what? Temporarily being disposed of? Maybe, maybe not. Body being dragged? You never know. The dragging effect. Does it apply to Noah Presgrove too, being dragged? Well, if Noah was dragged, his shoes didn't come off. But in the Dylan Rounds case, people seem very confident that Brenner was dragging Dylan Rounds' body and the boots fell off or slipped off. But to be honest, when you drag a body, and maybe not many people do that on a regular basis, but if you drag a body, where do you hold the person? By the foot, by the tip of the toe, the boot, the shoe? Do you hold them around the ankle, the calf area? What do you grab on to down below? What would you grab on first? And once you've got a firm grip of it, whether that be the shaft of the leg, a certain base there, or the heel, the hook of the heel, depending on what you grip onto, something could fall off. But if you're holding them by the leg, the calf, the knee, you're not making contact with the shoe, so it wouldn't fall off or slip. And to be honest, you'd have a better grip just above the shoe around the ankle area. Your hand is above the shoe, so there'd be no need for the shoe to fall or slip off. So that was a bit weird, that. But all shoes come in different shapes, sizes, fittings. Some are laced, others are Velcro, some are both, and others don't have either. They just slip on. And if it slips on, it can slip off as well. That can apply to some boots, but I don't know what type of boots Dylan had, whether they were laced or not, tied or not. But somehow they fell off and then disposed of around the dirt mound. Weird. Then you link it back to Noah Presgrove. Was he dragged at any point? Is there any evidence to suggest being dragged? Just so happens that in both shoes, the shoelaces, there was grass caught up within it. As to what amount, I'm not quite sure, but enough grass for it to be identifiable. How does grass collect in people's shoes? And we're not talking about underneath the sole, if you're walking on stuff, but actually being caught up in the shoelace area, where you could be walking through thick, dense vegetation at a certain angle and loose strands of grass and vegetation break off or get caught up and collect in the shoe. Possibility. But what was the conditions? What was the vegetation level like back at the party house? Because you've got the fields. Let's take this into consideration. You've got the open fields nearby, and the exception of the accessible point of the garden round the back of the party house, where supposedly the ATV side-by-side incident occurred, in which Jack said it happened round the back of the house. Just so happens round the back of the house, there was grass. But in terms of the front of the property, as you've seen it, it's mainly dirt. But possibly there is grass off to the left near to the barn, the shed, and round there and round the back of the house. But in terms of more so on the front, there is like a driveway, a turnaround point, and it appears to be just solid, compact dirt. And that applies to the road leading up to the highway and down. It's mainly a dirt road. But there is still like an island effect of grass, which is, at least when you see it on the satellite imagery, based there, house there, garden, backyard behind it. But in terms of on the front where the mound or the little island affected grass is, the outline of it is like the driving point where you can drive around, get on, and then come off. So it would have had to have meant for grass to get into Noah's shoes, either it occurred round the back, whether that be where the attack took place, or the ambush, or the side-by-side. See, this is the thing. The side-by-side incident occurring Monday morning, 3 in the morning up to 3:30 supposedly. Getting dirtied, having to change one's shorts, supposedly, right? Supposedly. But what about any other clothing? What other clothing was Noah wearing with the side-by-side incident? Did he have his chain on? You'd think so, because in all the footage and photos, it never leaves his body. The only time it left his body was at the scene of the highway. Broken chain. Could you say the broken chain occurred at the same time as the grass within the shoes? Well, if that was the case, it would mean that Noah would have been dragged onto the highway and then dropped off. But depending what side of the road you're on, and if you're heading north, so you're at the party house then heading north, and then you park up on the side, or you do a turnaround then park up, when you drag the body, you're going to be dragging Noah across the ground of the road. The grass is past the hard shoulder. It's not even on the road. There's no grass on the road. So you're going to be dragging Noah by the shoulder of the chain. Yeah, the chain could break from dragging a person with a bit of force, or yanking them possibly. But whilst the shoes are dragging, they're not connecting with any grass. And once the body is dumped at the shoulder, the side of the highway, there's still no grass there. The grass is after that. Now, if you used to drag the body any further, you'd be dragging them off completely off the highway and into the vegetation. And clearly that didn't happen. So the chain may have broken at the highway when being dragged or yanked out of a vehicle, maybe. But in terms of the grass on the shoe, that could have possibly happened at the party. Because you've got to take in consideration, it's a rural area, and depending on the time of the season, there's quite a lot of grass and vegetation spread about on fields, on private fields and land. Out of everywhere accessible, where would Noah have been to come across that grass? Likely the party house, round the backyard, the garden area, and maybe a bit of the grass on the front. Would it have been by choice? Would it have happened accidentally? At some point, Noah walking about casually, or if he needed to cool off at some point? Or was it more so the ambush and attack, being knocked to the ground or grabbed, rolling about on the ground, somehow grass connecting with the shoe and getting stuck in the lace? Or during the ambush, or just after, Noah being dragged by the chain or the clothing? Well, he wasn't wearing a top at the time, so he would have to have been grabbed maybe by the arm or shoulder by 2 people, dragged somewhere out of sight, who knows? And then the shoes scraping across the grass, in which you would have got some vegetation caught up in the shoelace. But what was the colouring of the shoes? Were they discoloured? Because sometimes if you do skid across grass, you can get grass stains on your shoes. And that Hey Dude shoe appears lighter in colour. So there should have been some green grass marks on the shoes, right? That's a possibility. It can happen. I guess if you're wearing black shoes, it's harder to see. Noah was wearing one Adidas shoe, his own, and then the other one being Caden Press's Hey Dude shoe. Mismatched, but both equally with grass in each lace. For both shoes to have grass in each lace, each shoe would suggest that both shoes, worn at a time, made contact with the ground, which would be consistent with being dragged. Because normally when you're dragged by both legs, dragged by both arms, and then the other parts of the body making contact with the ground, more so the legs, the shoes area, right? There wouldn't have been damage to the feet in terms of scrapes or grazes there if Noah's wearing shoes. It'd be the shoes that would have been maybe damaged, worn, rubbed, friction. But we don't hear much mentioned about that, not really. Did they say anything about any black debris being in the shoelace as well, or was that just on the body? Because if there was any black debris or some sort, gravel or some kind of hard material, and it was found on the body, more so the lower part, you could imply and say, well, that might have occurred at the time when the chain was broken if the body was being dumped, disposed of on the highway, but more so being dragged. Because think about it, if you dragged through deep, thick vegetation, you could end up with all grass and bits of vegetation, flies and all kinds of things lodged in your shoe. Wherever there's a crevice or a crack, it could be filled, couldn't it? But then when you've got a flat, open, bare surface, which is quite hard and rough, could cause friction. But the surface, if there's like friction and it can lead to a skid mark or some kind of imprint being left on some clothing, right? Could that explain some of the black debris? And it depends how crumbly the road is as well. If it's a bit loose, there's a few loose bits of gravel or grain that could catch on the shoes, depending. But the harder the surface and the friction present on some clothing, more so shoes and the material of the shoes, can cause damage to the shoes. More so cosmetic, but it's visual. You can see it. Was cosmetic damage listed on the report of the autopsy? Not from what I can remember. Just that debris, grass found in the shoelace. But that can still be consistent with being dragged in some way, okay? So, we've gone quite deep. We're not finished yet at all. I'm just putting everything into perspective the best way I can. This is done with no notes, nothing at all. This is all in here, so it might not be the best order when I'm talking, right? But what happened first in terms of the clothing? Was there a particular order to it? Well, the shirt situation, did Noah ever wear a shirt at the party? Because in all the footage that I've seen, he wasn't wearing one. Does that mean to say he didn't have one in the first place at there? Did he take a shirt down with him? If he did take a shirt down with him, what was the point if, for most part of it, he didn't intend on wearing it? Because let's remember, when it comes to the state of Noah's body, just at least based off Caden's recollection of what he saw, is it weird to find a person on the highway dead? Yes, it's unfortunate, it's odd, and the injury sustained, we've talked about that already. But in terms of the clothing, would you be driving by and think, you know what, that person looks a bit underdressed to be on the highway dead? What happened to their other clothing? This is very suspicious. Would you be thinking that? No, if you knew the context. Because from what Caden has said when he saw Noah in the past, describing Noah alternatively as a surfer from California, shorts, maybe a hat, that's it, and maybe some shoes on and off, depending. From the party footage, Noah wasn't always wearing shoes from what we've seen, I believe. I believe it was visible in the Brylan sweat footage on Sunday when Brylan slapped Noah. Noah wasn't wearing any shoes or socks at that moment. Was he wearing shoes before that? Don't know. Was he wearing shoes after that? Yes. So at what point would Noah put shoes on? Is Noah the type of guy to only put shoes on when he's coming and going? And once he's got to the house, let's just say, take the shoes off when you're inside, partially because you don't want to dirty the floor carpet inside and it's more comfortable not wearing shoes or whatever. And the exception of, going out in the backyard or on the front porch, can I get away with not wearing shoes because, you've got some grass in the backyard, it's safe. And then the patio or the front porch area, the overhanging roof, it's concrete, the floor, safe. As for beyond that, going onto the dirt road, could be a bit uncomfortable, barefoot, without any shoes. So then you would put shoes on. So if the pattern and order is Noah arrived at the party on Saturday with a hat on, the chain, a shirt or not, particular coloured shorts, the khaki, brownish ones, a pair of shoes, Adidas, his own, that seems like a normal attire, take in mind the weather, the conditions, and Caden's description of Noah from the past, a surfer dude, it would match that description. Then from Saturday to Sunday, how much changes? The colour of the shorts. Now, did at any point on Sunday when Noah got back to the party wear the khaki brown shorts and then change into the black ones after the ATV incident Monday morning? I don't think so. I'm just trying to put in perspective that some of the Sunday night footage of the party, what we saw, Noah was wearing black. He was either wearing khaki brown, which was Saturday, or he was wearing black, which meant Sunday onwards, right? Didn't see any other coloured shorts. Did anyone else see any different coloured ones in the footage? Let me know down below. But the order of that. And then after the ATV incident, that's where the drastic changes occurred, maybe. Changing the shorts, a different pair of black, or, as Jack claims, borrowing the white ones of his own. Chain, possibly still on him. Hat, still on him. Who knows? At 2:43 in the morning, did Caden say Noah was wearing a hat or the shoes? No mention of that. He probably wasn't thinking. He probably didn't take it in mind at the time. So when did the shoes actually come into play? He must have worn shoes to get down there in the first place, even in a vehicle. It kind of makes sense. Maybe people won't agree with that, but especially if you're moving about, going place to place, because on the Sunday morning, going here and there with friends, and then eventually getting back to the party afterwards with hunting in between, probably be wearing shoes, especially getting in and out of vehicles and walking over all kinds of ground and land, just protect your feet, right? But once you're at the party, once you're at the house, you can relax, you can settle down, you don't have to worry about walking about and the dangers that could be on the floor. It's a bit safer, maybe, to an extent. So the next time Noah put his shoes back on, possibly, or attempted to put his shoes on, was when he was leaving. But this is the thing. Okay, you come, you go. You enter and you leave at those times wearing shoes. And in between, you could wear shoes, but for comfort or for heat levels, you might take them off in between. And give and take, going outside for a breather, a rest, partying outside, playing in the backyard, you might still be barefoot. So why would Noah need to put on mismatched shoes if he was never going to leave the property nor the party? If Noah wasn't intending on walking back home and that he was going to remain on site, but he may have just gone outside for a breather, a rest, but even if that wasn't the case, then why was he wearing shoes? As we're trying to understand, right? You spend time and distance to get down there on foot, in this case in vehicle, because of the distance, it's extensive, probably wearing shoes. And when you're leaving the party to go back home or wherever, you're probably going to wear your shoes, or at least take them with you. And in between all that, in between it with the party, so Sunday and kind of Monday morning, you wouldn't need to really wear your shoes unless you're intending on leaving at a certain point and not returning back. So, if at 3:30, that's when Noah wandered off into the darkness. 3:30 was the timestamp which Jack mentioned, but also the timestamp in which supposedly that's when he was supposed to be cooling off and not actually leaving for good. But to even consider leaving the house at the party and to consider putting a pair of shoes on sounds like it's intended that Noah isn't possibly returning back, or wherever he's going to go, he needs footwear. Interesting. Because if Noah was perfectly okay being outside, as we saw with the recorded footage of Brylan and Noah on the front porch area at the concrete ground, a solid surface, which could still be a bit dusty and dirty, Noah was perfectly okay barefoot there, then why at 3:30 in the morning on Monday would he have to put shoes on? Unless you're going further distance, which requires the usage of shoes. Or you were wanting to get back home and you're going to take your items with you. That's what I just wanted to put in perspective. The act of putting on mismatched shoes. If they look different, surely you'll be able to identify that and know you're putting on the wrong shoe. If you're putting on two left or right shoes, you're going to know. But it just happened that Noah, the shoes that you were wearing, despite being mismatched, were the correct, left and right shoe, just not a matching pair. So Noah was consciously aware of putting on the right matching shoe for the foot, and it just so happened that the size of the shoe was the same, so it wouldn't have felt that different, but visually it would have looked different. But was Noah like, you know what, I don't care, I'm past caring, I don't care if it's my shoe or not, I just want to get out of here. You know, a want or a need to leave, a want, a need to put shoes on, to get outside and go where exactly? And if Noah did wander off Sunday night or Saturday night at some point and found by friends brought back to the house, what condition was Noah in there? Where was he exactly? Was he wearing shoes or not? If he wasn't wearing shoes when he wandered off earlier, then that makes it more significant this particular event, right? Now, it's only what Jack has said from what he stated. Oh yeah, Noah slipped on some shoes and walked off. Do we actually have real proof or evidence to say that Noah did actually put the shoes on himself from the party and then whatever happened, happened? I mean, in terms of the highway, the report there, Noah found with mismatched shoes on. But at what point were they put on? Jack says they were put on when Noah was about to leave or go outside at 3:30 onwards. Okay. Well, what about any of the other party goers? Have they said the same story? Not really heard it personally. And this is where it can tie in with the alternative theory where some people on my channel said, is there a possibility that those shoes were put onto Noah's body, but for what reason exactly? It's like a game of dressing the mannequin. Oh, you know what? Wearing black shorts, let's take him off. Let's replace him with some fresh white shorts. That won't seem odd, will it? But instead of actually putting him on the body, we'll actually just chuck him in the middle of the road. As for the chain, well, it's broken, we'll just leave it there. As for the hat, well, wherever that is. But you know what? Because Noah's body doesn't really have much clothing on, if none at all, let's just put some shoes on just for what? The sake of it. It just sounds so stupid. If the act of putting shoes on occurred at the time when the body was dumped, possibly, you know, that could be to stage some kind of incident. But if people are very confident or have a mindset of what is a hit and run, if anyone was responsible, they should know how to stage a hit and run with the shoes being nearby, the shorts being on the body, but the shoes being off the body. It's as if there might have been a form of intent, possibly based off a scenario, to stage a hit and run, but they got the bloody clothing mixed up in how it should be found at the scene. If it was a hit and run, in a general scenario, the shorts would remain on the body. They wouldn't fall off like that. And they might be damaged or they may not be, but nevertheless they would be on the body during a hit and run. The shoes, though, could fall off, or maybe one of them. So this is not me giving advice or expert advice to those within the case to do a better job next time, but I'm just being honest and realistic that if people wanted to stage a hit and run, maybe they would position the body differently, place the body elsewhere and not by the side, keep the shorts on, even if they did replace them, but put these shorts on the body and not nearby. And maybe if Noah was barefoot at the time of the party, whether he left the property or not and was killed, if the shoes were added on after, kind of like the shorts, but obviously the shoes were added on before the shorts because Caden saw the body with the shorts on, black, the shoes on, then afterwards the shorts were off but a different colour. There's an order to that. So with the shoes, if Noah wasn't wearing them at the party or near the property and then killed but then disposed of at the highway, people could have thought, you know what, we need to put the shoes on Noah's body to make it look more normal. You know, if it's going to be a hit and run or some kind of incident, it's going to appear more stranger coming across a random body in the middle of nowhere with no shoes, footwear on. Taking consideration to balance it up with the Montello, Lucin, Utah, Nevada, Dylan Rounds case where there was a couple of stories. Oh, Dylan Rounds found without his boots, his shoes. Some females or people found in Montello walking about with no shoes on. Chase Venstra found lurking in a bush, bruised and beaten, bloodied, with no shoes or one of the pairs of shoes around his neck. what the fuck is going on with missing shoes? Could explain as to why in the UK, whenever I go on walks, I always find one bloody shoe, the other pair is missing. The hell's going on there? I'm sure Shellen, walking around, going on a run, day in, day out, sure his shoes don't fall off. Got that damn right. Anyway, you know, depending what shoes you wear, they shouldn't fall off unless there's some kind of impact or you're being dragged. The only other reason why people wouldn't wear shoes is because it's too hot. Is it too hot in Oklahoma near to Terrell? Is it too hot to be wearing shoes for a long period of time? And that's why people take them off? Why would the party goers think, you know, if we're going to stage a hit and run or we're going to move the body elsewhere, we need to move clothing as well. So let's put shoes on. This is me making sense of a theory by, you know, people on my channel, in case you're wondering, with the shoes possibly being not put on by Noah, but put on by other party goers. And the only other reason why other people would dress a dead body, not just for a funeral, like how they do in certain cultures or traditions, but to stage something. If we're going to stage it with Noah, we've got to make sure that it looks kind of normal. Obviously, it was far from normal, but you know, we can't have Noah walking down a highway somehow with no shoes on. He's got to be wearing shoes, so we're going to put the shoes on. But what about the mismatch? Why would party goers do that? Because they're not sure whose shoe is what, so there's a debacle and a mix-up with it? Possibility. If that wasn't the case, maybe it's like, you know what, let's put on one of Caden Press's shoes onto Noah so it kind of incriminates him. Then it can lead to Caden being questioned in the future. And then they say, oh, Caden, are you aware that one of the partygoers was wearing one of your shoes? Could you explain as to why? Did anyone do that as a form of a diversion tactic to delay time, to cause a bit of misdirection? Was it done on purpose with intent to throw someone else under the bus? Or was it accidental? Was someone in a rush? You can put on mismatch shoes if you're in a rush. Providing that the shoes fit, one's a left and one's a right, you can put mismatched shoes on. If you're really in a rush and you're so focused on something else, it can happen, right? And that accident can be caused by either Noah or the partygoers if they were staging it. Noah could put him on accidentally if he was in a mood at the time and drunk. He just wanted to get out and he didn't care what he put on. He just needed something to put on to get outside, maybe. And depending on how far he actually went, right? I said, if it links back to Noah wandering off earlier on or the night before and he was found wearing shoes and brought back to the house, the same thing could have happened then, but on the Monday onwards, just based off patterns there. But if it wasn't Noah that accidentally put the shoes on, who else would be in a rush? Partygoers in a rush. Why? They're trying to set up or stage something. They might not be thinking straight. They could be panicking. They'd be thinking, right, just get any shoe, just put it on his body now. If that was the case, though, you would think the death possibly would have occurred on site of the property or very nearby in order to go back and fetch the shoes, possibly, right? Unless dumped at the highway and then afterwards they thought, you know what, we probably need to go back and get the shoes or replace them or get the shoes and then take them to the scene. Is it like a shift? You know, shorts on the body, fine, and then later removed, replaced, removed and replaced, or just removed from the body and put in the middle of the road. But it's happening at different times throughout the morning of Monday. Is it done in shifts? You'd think everything would be done in one go. But let's not forget the Dylan Rounds case. Dylan Rounds case, shoes came off Dylan's body, disposed of around the dirt mound, but left out in the open. Bit weird for Brenner to do, but it happened and it was proved with the touch-based DNA at the time. But then, as for the other clothing, assumed to be on Dylan, and to find that clothing, you'd have to find the body. But what about other personal possessions and items? The gun of Dylan's and the key fob, missing from Dylan's trailer, missing from Dylan's truck. Someone else had them, likely Brenner. They were returned back days after the death, days after Dylan being reported missing, June 1st and June 2nd. The gun and key fob were returned back on separate days, one after another. How weird is that? Surely, if you was going to return an item, you'd return it all in one go. Why do it one day after the other? Because you've forgotten to? Because you're trying to make it look less suspicious? It's just odd, but it happened. You look back to the Noah Presgrove case, present time. Shorts on, then later, shorts off. But the shorts off were after the death of Noah. But the original shorts on Noah were still on him after the death from what Caden said. But then beyond that, beyond Caden leaving, beyond the death of Noah, of course, then they were taken off. It's as if someone or some people thought, you know what, we've done what we've done, but those shorts, I think we need to get rid of them. We need to get back to the highway before anyone else shows up. You know, something like that, like a mentality. Now, based off that mentality and theory, and if it's done in shifts, is it done by different people? Well, you got to take into consideration, don't know how significant it is, but Caden Pressey said between two of the guys who he knows and who were asleep along with him, close together, two of the guys ended up switching positions. Like one was sleeping on the floor, the other one was sleeping on a chair of some sort. And then when Caden woke up at 5:15 compared to when he was woken up at 2:43, they changed positions. Why did they change positions? Is that normal? Well, it implied both must have woken up at a certain time between 2:43 to 5:15 and moved about. But where did they go to? Did they leave the house at any point? That's very interesting, that. And if at any point they decided to move about between 2:43 to 5:15, how long did they do it for? Where did they go? Did they play a role? Was there a shift in, right, it's our turn now, or maybe we should go here or go there to dispose of this or that, or add this to Noah's body? Couldn't have been the shorts, though, because at 5:15 onwards, Caden, when getting down there, saw the original shorts on Noah. So it must have been other items in between which could have been added. If people want to, if you want to reinforce it with the theory provided by viewers recently about shoes being put on Noah's body by someone else, could that tie in with the two guys who were asleep changing positions in between 2:43 to 5:15 because they were responsible for moving about and taking those shoes to the highway in between that? Possibly, but I don't think there's enough evidence or proof at this moment. But it would be interesting whether it's to be debunk or reinforce it as to why the two guys who were asleep, who were alongside Caden sleeping, ended up switching places when sleeping. Why do you switch places? Kind of unrelated, but if it was a car accident incident and you were driving and you crashed and you're at fault, you've seen it sometimes in movies or films where they'll get out of the driver's seat, and if there's a passenger in, they'll take the passenger out the passenger seat and make them the driver, strap him in. Then the driver gets into the passenger seat to stage it. But through investigations, and if there is damage sustained to the body and the bruising, what would clearly show is the seat belt as a driver on the certain side of the body, that when you do get to the passenger seat, the seatbelt would be on the other side, but that imprint isn't shown. The original print is showing from the driver's perspective, and if the driver is in the passenger seat by staging it, based off the injuries sustained, it's going to expose them and call them out. In terms of a sleeping scenario within the Noah Presgrove case, it's not as deep, unless there's evidence or some kind of material along the way which could be collected, and it could reinforce it or open up a new lead or pathway. So I just wanted to try and make sense of that. Now, how would I rank in terms of levels of importance? I don't know if I could, but I'll try and do a summary right now, and I'll explain to you what I think is important, right? The hat is only important because there is a mysterious aura about it. The unknown, the uncertainty as to where it is, what happened to it, and when did it disappear? Before Noah died, during Noah died, or after. Depending what condition is met, it could determine how important it is. But because we don't know at this moment in time, I can't come to a definitive conclusion. But because it's a mystery, and it could possibly remain a mystery for some time, That's what makes it important. The only other extension you could add on is that possible eyewitness report of a hat looking similar to Noah's being placed on top of a bin in a bathroom of a casino south of Terrell by one of 3 party goers being identified at the time. But what year wasn't given. Relevancy, not quite there. But if you wanted to add it onto the hat, that could reinforce the importance behind it, right? The chain. How important is the chain? Very important, considering it was on Noah's body through and through. And it only left his body, supposedly at the scene of the highway. The factor that it was broken into pieces, whether it's the complete set at the highway or there's missing pieces, a bit unknown. But the fact that it was damaged, considering the clothing, at least with the shorts, weren't damaged, goes a long, long way. Let's be honest. The chain, a piece, not clothing, but an accessory, was actually closer to the areas of where the body sustained the most damage. And it just happened that the chain was damaged as well. You think of the shorts, think of the shoes. No real damage provided or explained. Is that because those areas just happen to be in areas where the body wasn't attacked or hurt much? Pretty much, yeah. But then again, the graze or scrape on the bottom, the cheek or the side, there should be a slight bit of friction or damaged cosmetic to the shorts at least, but the exception there, the shorts were replaced with the white ones, a fresh pair afterwards. Well, the fresh pair that is eventually found and identified will be considered as undamaged because they weren't worn at the time of the death. So the actual black pair of shorts, what condition were they in? Besides them being cleaned, supposedly, and handed back to family, what condition were those black shorts in? That would have been interesting to know, wouldn't it? But anyway, to revert back to the chain, the fact that the chain is up here around the neck which was broken, the vertebrae around the back, the head caved in and stuff. Was the damaged chain linked with at the time of when the upper body, the head, the neck was damaged as well? Maybe. You never know. So the factor of the chain being found on Noah's body is significant, that it was damaged is significant, and the area where it lays on the body, as it normally would, because of it being like a necklace or a chain, is in the area where the most damage is sustained. So that possibility of, was it damaged at the time of the death or was it damaged after when being dragged and disposed of at the highway? That's significant there. What about the shorts? How significant are they? Very important because there's a lot of conflict going on with what Caden saw compared to what Tyler Hardy saw and what Jack is stating. Jack is kind of on the side of Tyler Hardy in a way. Well, actually, no, not really, because Tyler didn't mention what colour they were at the time. So even in the call, there was something found in the middle of the road. And then Jack said, yeah, the shorts are, I picked them up and put them in the back of the truck. Okay, so they're on the same pathway there, but in terms of the colour, Tyler didn't really mention it at the time. It was between Caden versus Jack. But in terms of besides the colour, how they were found on or off the body, that was Caden versus Tyler Hardy. Conflict. Mexican standoff, almost like a triangle of conflict, a triangle of disagreements and alternative stories. You could argue and say Tyler Hardy, what he saw in terms of where they were found can be correct, and what Ken saw earlier can be correct too. If in between, they were adjusted, moved, manipulated, tampered with. So in some states, some cases or events within the overall case, people can have conflicting stories, but both can be right if it was at different times. The times where it's most problematic is when people come out with 2 different stories or multiple, and it's around the same time stamp, the same time. And a good example of that, which is problematic, is with the likes of Carson, Sarah Long, Stevie Howard, Becky, and anyone else, where Becky was saying, yeah, we were all down there Monday morning at a certain time, including Stevie Howard. And Stevie Howard is saying, I wasn't there, I was in Texas. And Brooke Bounce-Carter is saying that as well. And yet Becky is dropping Stevie's name into the mix of things. Why else? At the same time, roughly, in the same location, one saying, yeah, that person was here, and the person themselves claiming that they weren't there because they were in a different state. That really is dodgy. But the situation with the shorts, yeah. At 5:20, Caden may have saw Noah wearing black shorts. But at 5:53, or close to that, Tyler Hardy saw something different. There's a space of time in between for things to happen, even if it's a very tight window. So it's worth taking that into consideration. So the shorts are very important based off the fact that they may have been manipulated, changed, tampered, and altered with. And whilst all these other items can tell a story and have evidence, maybe the shorts tell the most or the biggest story for them to be removed and changed. You could argue and say the hat is equal in importance, but we don't know when that was removed or when it was lost. If the hat was on Noah's body at the highway when Ken saw it, but not afterwards, like with the shorts, and both were taken away, both could be considered as key evidence taken away at the same time to be washed, cleaned, disposed, whatever. But we don't know about the hat. But from the stories, the conflicting ones with the shorts, on the body, off the body, and Jack as well with the colours, and that hidden footage as well, which we've seen, talked about briefly, Cav implies that there was an intent to remove the shorts, even if it was delayed, the act of doing so, because people worried or someone may have felt that there was evidence on it and it could have incriminated them or someone, so they had to get rid of it, even if it did take longer and there was a delay, but it was done, supposedly. The act of removing that, but not the shoes, could imply that there's more evidence on the shorts than the shoes. Because the shoes remained on Noah's body. They weren't really adjusted, manipulated, were they? The legs were moved, supposedly, in positions to accompany taking the shorts off and stuff. But in terms of the shoes, not much mention about that. So you could say that the shorts are one of the most important pieces of clothing in this case. But equally in importance, if not more, I would say the chain. So if I had to rank it, I would say the chain is one of the most important pieces of evidence in the case as for clothing and accessories, followed by the shorts, followed by the hat or the shoes. I'm not too sure about the hat and shoes. I'd probably say the shoes followed by the hat. There's not enough stories or witness reports about the hat as to where it ended up, what happened to it. No real mention of that, so it's unknown, it's mysterious. If it could be reinforced, it could go up on the hierarchical list. The reason why I'd say the shoes are more important than the hat, because the shoes were there on Noah's body up to the death probably, and obviously beyond, and wasn't adjusted after that. The fact that the shoes wasn't adjusted after that would imply that they're not as important as the shorts. The shorts have a higher priority in being adjusted and taken away, but the shoes remain because they don't have much evidence on it. But you thought the shoes would be somewhat important because depending how you carry, drag, or hold a body, and if multiple people are present, you might hold them around the ankles or the shoe area, and touch-based DNA could get on. But it depends. If Noah was being disposed of and if multiple people were carrying him, maybe some were wearing gloves, others weren't. And they're all like, you know what? Did we all do it right? No, you didn't wear gloves? Damn it. Right, you'll have to get back, head back, or get someone else to, and clear up the short situation. Because we did our part, you didn't. There could be that conflict. You never know if there's any other arguments occurring after. It'd be interesting to know, besides the Carter Combs and Avery Combs state of complaining on the front of the porchway at some point Monday, whilst other people have said it would be interesting to see if there was any damage sustained, physical, visual, any visual damage on people physically, knuckles, hands, fist, whatever, knees, face, bruises. If there was any physical injuries like that present just after the death of Noah, but before it being announced at 5:15. You know, if anyone got into a scrap or a fight, that would imply that there. But besides that, the only other thing of importance, which I've forgotten of at this moment in time, which I might add on afterwards if needed, but the shoe situation compared to the shorts, I think I'll leave it there for now because I don't want to start losing momentum. But I just wanted to share with you my hierarchy list of what's most important and what's not as important. There is a list to it. That some items replaced, taken away, manipulated, and other items left as they were. Not as important, not as much going on. But The reason why shoes are still got a level of importance over the likes of the hat, because the shoes were recovered and there were findings with the shoes which matched with grass vegetation being found in the shoelace, which could imply being dragged. And if it involves being dragged, that could be a part of the timeline at a certain point of what happened to Noah. We don't have a timeline with the hat, the condition of it, where it was last at, where it was last seen, so we can't really apply it much with the timeline, but you can with the shoes. With the shoelace, the grass, caught up, possibly being dragged. Why'd you be dragged? Was it somehow caused with the side-by-side when it flipped over, innocent like that, and the grass collected in the shoes? Don't know, because if you roll onto your side, do you fall out of the vehicle or are you still strapped in? Well, to get dirty, you could have made contact with the ground. But if you're rolling onto your side, you're going to fall onto the side of one of, the left or right side. So at least one of the shoes might make contact with the grass. But if you're just rolling over and you're landing, you're not exactly causing friction or being dragged across. So you're not exactly going to collect grass in your shoe. But if you're outright being dragged by the arms, shoulders, and your legs are scraping across the ground, your shoes, that will make more contact with the grass and may catch bits of strands and pull it out of the ground, which can get lodged in the shoe, the gaps and the cracks. So that would seem more likely there. And, being dragged doesn't sound like a good thing. Being dragged before or after the death or in the process, it makes you think. So that's what I think. So with the clothing, how Noah was originally found by the likes of Caden, from what Caden saw firsthand, it is what it is in terms of the lack of top and certain clothing because Noah was known to dress that way. The mismatched shoes is odd, but if it was by accident by Noah, because he was desperate to leave or get away for some reason, or he needed to cover more distance on that occasion with wearing shoes, you could be lenient there possibly. But as for the broken chain, you don't just go on a walk in the middle of nowhere and then end up with a broken chain just like that. So that's what makes it does stand out. Like how there's little factors along the way. The broken chain stands out and goes a long way. Let me know what you think stands out the most to you as for clothing or items, accessories. What's the most important on your list? Hopefully you found this video somewhat interesting. Apologies that it was long, but it needed to be. All done in one take, no water. So orally, I've done a lot better this time. I've not got as dry. So that's good. If you do want to share this video, feel free to do so, and we'll see what other people think. And if you do want to leave comments or questions, let me know down below under this video. Thanks for watching, and for those that were patient, and shout out credit to those supported the channel last night, and if anyone does tonight in advance, because it's pre-recorded in advance, much appreciated. We'll see what happens next. Any updates, any other focused videos or more opinions, we'll see with time. Here and now do some polls in which videos people want, and for example, this is why I've done my video today, because majority of people voted for it, so you got it. Thanks for watching then. I'll see you next time, whenever that is. Goodbye and good night for now.